Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. That was a little bit off center. Let's do it again. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Oh, that was a good one. Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. So wow, last night marks at least the 5th good night of sleep that I got. I want to talk a little bit more about some goals I had set out this year, because I realized that I needed to tune up some of these things and maybe pivot a little bit on some of these goals. So earlier this year, actually it was closer to Christmas last year, I got myself addicted to making bismuth art because of how beautiful everything was, and I just got a little bit addicted to that. But you know something that's infinitely more beautiful than bismuth art? The entire world when I sleep very well. And so I'm going to have to think hard about how... The tricky part about bismuth, and why I always do a shit ton of it every time I do any bismuth art, is that there's so much prep work that gets involved. You gotta, I live with roommates, so I can't just leave the kitchen in a state of what I'm doing. You gotta paper the floors, and then depending on who's coming in and out, right, I have to schedule some time to do that. And so when the opportunity arises that I can do some bismuth art, I gotta get everything I want to do done, right? So I'll have to think about putting aside some time where I just focus on that, and then the rest of the time taking time to eat well, to sleep well, and all that, right? So lately, for some time I was doing bismuth almost every day. Now you can imagine, once you set up for the day, you want to get as much done as you can. So often I was pulling all-nighters, and I've discovered that bismuth isn't the most beautiful thing in the world anymore. I'm sorry to you, bismuth, but there is a place for you, but there's a place for other things as well. Now I've relapsed, I hate to use the word relapse, but on the NoFap, but the reason for that isn't because I've gone down the deep end or anything, but it's because of all the other beautiful things that I'd like to be accomplishing. And I'm connecting with people more anyhow, so I'm not terribly disappointed about it. I've been fapping once or twice a week or so, but at the same time I'm connecting with others, I'm sleeping well, I'm eating well, and all that. But I also want to think about the concept of quiet quitting more. I've been doing it a lot more aggressively now. One thing I've noticed about work, especially gig work, is that it seems like the clock never stops ticking, right? So for example, I could very well get a call right now about a client who wants to reschedule or wants to schedule with me, and what's really frustrating is that I used to put a lot of loyalty into always showing up on time. You got a client at, let's say right now I'm recording this at 7 a.m. You got a client at 10 a.m. It's already weighing on you, right? What you can do if you want to go to your favorite restaurant, if you want to prepare for the bismuth art, right? If you want to get some sleep, take a nap, you get the idea, right? I try not to let that weigh down on me anymore. I do what I want to do, and if 10 comes and goes and I'm not ready for whatever reason, then I apologize to the client. I find it's a lot easier to take something and then apologize. Oh my God, something came up, an emergency of some sort, than to try to ask for permission to do. Let's say I get an interesting bismuth art idea, right? If I pick up the phone and call my boss, what do you think he's going to say? Whereas if something just comes up at 10 o'clock and oh my God, it's not going to work. It's weird how I much prefer the former, but unfortunately our society prefers the latter for some bizarre reason. Now the funny thing is, even though I make it a policy to eat well and sleep well first, and then worry about work second, I've never actually had to show up, at least not yet over the last couple of weeks of doing this. And so, And plus, now I go to work feeling much more recharged than before. So in essence, I'm quiet quitting for the benefit of my employer. That's the funny thing about it. All right, just keep you guys updated. Some pivoting, but for the better.